Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nations Call podcast with Jonna and Alyssa. Here we talk about stories from the missions field, how our theology has been changed by being with the broken and various cultures, along with other missions reflections. We hope we can uplift and inspire you with our stories and musings. Thank you for listening.
Hey guys! So today we're talking about Jesus and my therapist. So we're talking to Christina Strong, who is our therapist. She's on our team, and she's offered to do therapy and counseling for any of our long-term missionaries. I met her quite a while back, as you'll discover, and she is wonderful. She has a master's degree in pastoral counseling. She's board certified in pastoral counseling and board certified in trauma counseling. She is absolutely a godsend, and we really enjoyed this interview with her. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we enjoyed being able to listen. Thanks. A little backstory of how I know Christina is we were supposed to go on a trip to Romania together in 2017?
Yes.
Wasn't it? Yes. And some medical issues happened with you and your husband, and you couldn't go, but we stayed in contact. Have you stayed in contact with anybody else on that team?
No, I have not.
No.
But I did meet a really nice guy. His name is David. I can't think of his last name. He's got a really long last name. I met him in Romania, and he was part of all that, and we have stayed in contact.
That's awesome. I know I contacted you with Davidescu.
That's him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's the Roma pastor in Craiova, because your heart is for Romas.
Yes.
Yes. And I cannot wait to see you on the field with us.
Yes, yeah. I can't wait. I'm ready.
That would be awesome. So much fun. It'll be exciting. But that's just a little backstory. I think God has totally put us together. I love your heart for counseling and for making sure that people are okay. I love that so much. So we were just wondering, like, if you can expand a little bit on your backstory. Like, what's your backstory?
For me, my backstory is I was raised Christian, but I never knew what that really meant. I did not know that meant doing like God's work. I fell in love with a man and I converted to Islam, and I was a Muslim for over 20 years, and I was what's called a Da'iya of Islam, which means I was a minister of the women in Islam. One night, someone had came and put some really hard pressure on my chest and said, you've been teaching a lie. It's now time to go teach the truth. And I really didn't understand what it was until a friend of mine from my past had said, could you please, I got to get a message to her. So she told my sister, and my sister was like, he said that you've been teaching a lie. Now it's time to come teach the truth. I mean, it was word verbatim. And I knew at the point that was the Holy Spirit coming to me and saying, you know, I've got a mission in life.
Wow.
I was trached for over 15 years. I had CPR more than 6 times. And they were constantly saying, you have a purpose in life. And I now know that I have a godly purpose to help others.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's such a cool backstory.
Yeah.
So did you, move out of the U.S. during that time? Or did you stay here?
I lived in Morocco for over 5 years. I do speak Arabic and I do speak French. Maybe not fluently, but I do speak it pretty well. And I moved back about 6 years ago, and once I converted to Christianity, I was issued what's called a summons, and it's a summons for a beheading for no longer being a Muslim Da'iya and going into what they consider infidel and a massive disbeliever.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So you can't go back to Morocco?
Not to Morocco, but I can go pretty much anywhere else. And the FBI and the sheriff are aware of where I'm at all times. So.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
really interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is what I feel.
So how did you become a therapist?
Originally, I had started out at Liberty University, and I did Bachelor's of Science of the History and of Biblical Studies because I wanted to know exactly what Christianity was as I had just converted. And I had planned on being a minister, but I was told by a Pentecostal pastor that I'm a woman and I need to know my place. And, me. And after that, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. So I had decided to go into chaplaincy because I was working here at the hospital as a chaplain. And I was in Thailand on a missions trip. We were doing sex trafficking victims, helping them understand the neurology of it. And something came to me and said, you have gone the wrong direction. You need to go now and learn to do a counseling. And I called from Thailand to Liberty University and changed my degree at that time. And I now have a master's in pastoral counseling.
Wow. That's
and I went to the American Christian Counselors to be board certified in it.
Yes, that's amazing. Do you feel like that pastor that told you that you could not be a pastor because you're a woman, do you feel like that really took you back?
No, because I do understand where he's coming from. There is a verse in there, and it talks about how women, there was a verse, I cannot remember the exact wording of the verse, but it says that you should be quiet when you're in church. But see, the problem is a lot of people take that verse for the wrong thing. What actually, if you take the history at that time, women were being really, I don't know the word for it, but it's like they were not being proper in church. They were being loud and disruptive, and the men could not concentrate. This was for a time. It said, like it says in Esther, such a time as this. You have a specific time for specific rules, and that's what that rule is for. It's not for women not to be ministers. Women have just as much to give as anybody else. I mean, and take Esther, for example. I mean, she did amazing things. So, you have to know your history. Yes. And I think that's
so important.
I think everything has a historical context that sometimes we kind of tend to overlook, but we really should study like the tradition of the texts and things like where it's coming from and the time place geographically and also like historically.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was in ministry school, one of my ministry schools, they related it to at the time they had gender separated the church. And since the women were uneducated, they would holler to their husbands and ask for an explanation during the sermon. I've heard that. And then recently, I even heard that Paul was taking it as, because at the time that was being said secularly as like a debate. And he was sarcastic when he mentioned it, saying the church should not be like that.
What are you, like how Jesus said, you have heard it said, but right. I tell you this.
Right.
There's relatively new theological belief that Paul was saying something similar to like Jesus's, you have heard it said, but I tell you this.
Right.
And so there's a lot of ways that we could look at it, but I'm not sure that we should take it so harshly and for the entire grouping of women as a whole. Mm-hmm. Like that seems to be the wrong way to look at it.
Says that, everyone is given a gift by God. Now, if you're telling me that if a woman was given a gift by God to be a minister, of Christianity, how are you going to overpower that? Because, when you decide to do ministry, it's a calling. It's not, I woke up out of bed and I'm ready to be, a pastor. No, you can't do that. It is a calling. It is a God-given calling. And whomever he chooses to bestow that on, you have to let that go. And, you need to, nurture it and allow that and comfort that person and encourage that person to do their calling of God.
Yes, right. Completely agree. What are your responses to the people that will say that Holy Spirit is the only counselor they need?
The Holy Spirit is a wonderful and great counselor, and I do agree with that. But there is a verse, and it's in Proverbs 15:22, and it says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many, that's the key word there, many advisors, they succeed. The Holy Spirit is a great counselor, and he tells us and steers us right from wrong. But if you look throughout the Bible, there's over 100 verses about seeking counsel. Wow. And that mentions different ones. And it says in Psalms 18:19, he brought me into a broad place and he rescued me because he delights in me. Now, if he's going to do that, he's going to use those gifts that I mentioned before to help bring you in and teach you how to get out of that broad place into a place of comfort. Wow. And that's he gives us. I mean, it's not, you can't just God gives us tools, and we need to use those tools, and those tools are people that are blessed with gifts, and everybody has their own gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Such a good answer to that question.
It's such a good answer. I love that.
What would you say to people that have been through like really bad counseling or therapy and had their issues belittled, or they're told to like suck it up, just to be stronger? Like, what as a counselor is your response to those types of things?
I've actually had a patient that had the same thing. She said she was terrified to come to me because she was like, I've not had a very good experience. And my advice to people is, if someone is belittling your feelings or belittling anything about you, then they're not of great counsel. Because it's throughout the Bible, you'll see where it says that you're supposed to uplift and encourage each other. If I'm not encouraging you, if I'm not giving you peace and comfort, then you don't need to be coming to me. You don't need to be doing that. And that's the thing. If somebody belittles your feelings, everybody is entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their feelings. And that is something God gave us. We don't, our brain is such an amazing organ, and God created it. Our feelings are important, or He would not have made something in our brain develop those feelings. So if somebody's belittling you and had a bad experience in therapy, all I can say is do your research. What is their purpose? And that's one of the things that I had an issue with when I started to go into counseling. As a secular, what they call a secular counselor, that's someone that does not use the Bible in their counseling. You can charge insurance, you could become, have money and have all these things, or you can go into what I did, which is pastoral counseling, which I'm doing the work of God. I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm not doing it for anything. I have nothing to gain from this except for you feeling good about yourself and you getting out of that dark place that you have been brought into.
Right.
Yeah. So to piggyback off of that, would you suggest that when people seek out pastoral counseling that they go to people with an actual counseling degree? Or that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things?
In the grand scheme of things, it does not matter, because I have my degree and I have because I do that so you can have peace with me. You know that I've done my work. I have done my studying, and I continue, because in order to be a pastoral counselor, you have to do continued education credits to hold your license. So not only have I studied, but I'm continuing to study to learn new things and new techniques to be able to bring you that. But if God has given someone else the ability to counsel, I'm not one to say that you can't do that. But I'm just saying, for me, I feel comfortable knowing that I can sit there and show you credentials, not for show, not for ego, but for giving you comfort that I'm doing my research to help you the best I can.
Like a reassurance.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that too. So what are some perks of having therapy that you feel make it easier to be a Christian?
For me, when you go to counseling, sometimes when you are in a dark place, the devil likes to play with your brain. He likes to pick your brain, and he finds your weakness, and he uses that. But using a Christian counselor and going to a Christian counselor, we're able to look outside the box and kind of say, well, have you thought about this? Well, have you thought about this? And, we kind of can help you see something you're not able to see, because you kind of have blinders on you when you are in a depressive or anxious mood, or you're going through a battle that you don't know how to face. Sometimes you have blinders and precursors, like something that happened in your past or something that happened in your family. And we're able to see outside that. We're able to see the grand scheme of things and kind of help place it there for you.
Yes. I love that. I definitely need more counseling in my life.
I know. I've been through a lot of bad therapy, and then people in my family have been through a lot of bad therapy, and so personally I do resonate with that credentialing for peace, for having seeing, they're credentialed, that gives me peace, because a lot of my bad counseling experiences were people that did not have any education on how to really reach people in a way that was comforting or helpful. It was more like personal opinion time, and
your opinion not of importance. Now I will sit there, and in my counseling, when I come in and I started counseling, the first thing I always tell my clients is, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you what direction to go. I'm here to give you the tools to be able to make a decision for yourself and to learn how to make the right decision with these tools. That's all I do is give you tools. And I'm not there to sit there and give you my opinion. Now, if I feel that there's a certain direction, I might say, if it was me, I would do such and such. But let me tell you the other options. Because what I do in my life is not what you do in your life. I don't live your life. You don't live my life. I'm not one to tell you what to do. I just give you the tools.
Right.
I don't think that many people really know that therapy is not about having concrete answers to problems, and that it's more about having tools to make your own decisions. Because I think for me, I want really concrete things. I want people to kind of tell me like what I should do. But that's not really what therapy is, and it's not what it's helpful for. So that's really interesting.
Well, when you want to know exactly what to do and what direction, then for me, I would look and say, okay, let's start with, how do you see yourself? When you look in the mirror, how do you see? Because generally, I'm not saying everybody, but generally, if you want somebody to hand feed you stuff, your confidence in yourself and your self-esteem is not at a place where it should be. It needs to be higher. You need to hold your crown up and not tilt it. And that's very important. You got to know how to look at yourself and how you perceive your position in life. I mean, your purpose in life, what your direction. And a lot of times when somebody says, how do I do this? No. I can't tell you how to do it, but I can show you the tools to make the right decision.
Right. Yeah. I love that. What is one of the tools that you feel like are the most helpful, like, in general?
My biggest thing, and I am the worst because I do not like to write. I don't want to write. I want to type. I want to text, and that's me. But my biggest tool, and I start this with every client, I said, I want a journal. I want you to write down what you're feeling, what's going on when you're feeling it, because by journaling it, you're taking ownership of that feeling. You're saying, yes, I have this feeling. And a lot of people will sit there, like, I'll give you an example. She's like, I'm Christian and I'm just not happy and I know that's wrong. No, that's not wrong. God says in many places that, I'm going to put you in broad places, meaning He's going to put you in these difficult times. So it's okay to not be happy. Right now, why you're not happy. Don't just be, I'm not happy. Okay, you're not happy. Why are you not happy? Oh, I don't like my job. Why don't you like your job? You've got to start doing a why. Ask yourself who, what, where, and why. Why am I not happy? Who's making me feel this way? In what way am I not happy? So my biggest tool is journaling. Always journal, detail for detail, why you're feeling the way you're feeling.
Yeah. Wow. So a lot of times it seems like you look for the cause, like the root issue, like what's the thing under the thing. Like,
right.
The reasons for why this emotion comes up, and then you try to pinpoint like a deep cause and then go from there.
Correct. Because you can have someone that comes in and has been, let's say, for example, someone has come in and they said that I hate my mother. Okay, you hate your mother. But then the thing is this could be, let's say for a gentleman that came in and said that, the thing is he could have been, maybe something bad happened to him with another woman, so he associates all things to women. And it's a lot of grouping. People do groupings. It's like, oh, I was hurt by, I was hurt by this cat, for example. Okay, well, I hate all cats. You can't do that. You've got to learn to see who hurt you, fix that hurt, because if you don't fix something now, it's going to keep adding layers, and it's going to take a long time to just, get through those layers.
So basically, the faster you go to therapy, the better, so that you can.
Yeah. I recommend therapy every day. I mean, if like when I have my clients, I sit there and I see what their needs are. When they first come to me, I recommend they see me 3 times a week, automatically. Now, after the next week, we'll reevaluate that, and maybe we can stay at 3 times a week for a while. But then when I start to see you're starting to have a little bit more confidence and a little bit more assurance, we may cut that back to 2 times a week. But in general, you should see someone at least once a month, I feel, in order to make sure you're not starting to develop layers.
Right.
Yeah.
Whenever we were in ministry school, we had like inner healing, and it wasn't like counseling. It was more of like, you come to us with your emotional issues and we'll pray about it, and like Holy Spirit's going to heal you. And I remember I signed up to do that because I had layers where I had an abusive ex-boyfriend for 8 years, and I felt like God had healed me for most of it, but I went in because I'm like, I just feel like I have some layers that need to be cleaned and fixed up. And that really did help, because before that, I felt like marriage was a trap, and that if I married Nicholas, then he was going to turn into a terrible person, and it was going to be awful. And after that session, which was like an hour, it wasn't very long, they just prayed over me and like kind of went through an application, like a 10-page application, went through a bunch of stuff. And after that, I felt a lot better. So I do completely agree with the residue, the layers that you kind of have to make sure are cleaned and off of you. And I need more therapy in my life.
I think everybody does. I definitely do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing is, like for me, when I hear different stories, I too have to go to therapy, because not only do I have to get my layers, I have to get everybody else's, because if I don't do that, then I get what's called burnout, and you don't ever want to get burnout. And that's why that's another tool that I practice, is the 5 stages of self-care. If you are not doing self-care, you will develop layers, and everybody needs to do that.
Yes.
So what are the 5 stages of self-care? I'm really interested to know.
Okay, well, the first one is physical. Physical self-care can be anything like going to get your hair cut, going and running, kayaking, whatever is a physical activity or something that improves your physical outward appearance that makes you happy. Like, for instance, you love art, okay? That's a physical thing. Do your art, express yourself through art. The other one is emotional. This is where you go to therapy. You sit there and you take care of your emotional well-being. This could be through journaling. This can be through going and talking to a therapist or something in that fact. And then you have psychological. Psychological is where you decompress your mind. You go, if you want to learn about something, go and learn something. Like for me, I love to learn about the mind and how things work. For my psychological well-being, I'm going to listen to a class or podcast about that. And spiritual is one that a lot of Christians misunderstand. A lot of Christians think that spiritual self-care is, I'm going to go pray, I'm going to go to church, and I've taken care of my spiritual well-being. That is not true. Spiritual well-being is when you sit, what my teacher taught me as sitting well at the well. Are you sitting at the well? Are you filling the well? Are you letting that well just completely empty out? You've got to sit down and really be with yourself, be with God, and understand your whole being as a spiritual. And last is your professional. Professional is where you go and take care of what you do. Like, for instance, you do medical coding. Okay, well, they just went from ICD 9 to 10. Do you know ICD 10? Are you going to do continued education? This is where you take care of your personal, professional development. Or if you don't know how to talk good, go to a communication class. Learn how to communicate better. And that's what the 5 stages of self-care are.
They're so helpful.
That's really interesting. So would you consider, in the traditional Jewish culture with Shabbat, as like a complete day of rest? It starts Friday evening and restarts just all Saturdays of rest, no electronics, and you're supposed to spend time with God. Would you consider that a spiritual self-care?
If you're just doing that, then no. Because all you're doing is resting. What are you doing when you're resting? Are you sitting there going, this is how I've felt lately, and just kind of really rest and be with God? If you're just saying, oh, I'm taking the day off, okay, we can do that anytime. It's called, time off. You've got to really sit there and meditate. Be calm. Listen. Go into nature. That's one of the best things. And nature shows us everything we need to know. Go sit down. Sit by a tree. And if you live in the city, then go somewhere that's quiet. You know, a very quiet place, and really sit and meditate on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that I'm actually pretty bad at spiritual self-care. Like, I definitely misunderstood it until you explained it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought that spiritual self-care was like convincing myself that I need to make it to church on Sunday. And it's not really that. It's like quieting your spirit and really just being present with God and nature and yourself, and kind of like decompressing a little bit.
It's letting God come into you. It's not forcing it. It's not pushing it. It's saying, okay, I'm ready. Come into me. Give me guidance. You know, and you can't just say, okay, I'm going to church. I got my spiritual care. Check that off. No. You gotta taste it. Enjoy it. It's like savoring food. You know, I love food. I'm not going to lie about it. I love food. Spiritual care is like eating a great piece of cake. You don't just sit there and devour it. You got to sit there and savor it and taste it. Taste what God and nature is giving to you. Smell it. And that's, you use your senses. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? You got to go through your senses for everything.
Wow. What is your best advice for somebody that is doing rather poorly in all 5 areas of how to start? I think I'm doing poorly.
First is to educate. I think education is important. Like she said, you know, she didn't understand what it was. Educate yourself and seek someone that knows about it and say, okay, what are some examples? Because what my examples are may not work for you. But I can give you more examples. You know, just tell me what you enjoy. Tell me what you do in a normal day. And I'll say, okay, here's how you can work on it. Go to someone that understands what self-care really is, and not just, oh, I think it means this, or I heard fulan say that it means this. No. You need to really know what it means.
Right. Not just a spa day.
Right. I'm like, I got my cucumbers and my bath bomb. Self-care. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a self-care, but that's not the exact way you're supposed to be doing it. There's more areas than just yourself, your physical self.
That sounds more helpful than what I've been doing. I'm like, why isn't this self-care working? And I think I know why. It's because it's not always physical self-care that I need. A lot of times it's like spiritual or professional. Honestly, professional self-care. I'm like, that's a thing? I need to do that one more often.
One thing that I like to do, I have not been able to do it due to COVID and stuff, is I go to a conference. You know, I don't take anybody with me. I don't take my stepchildren. I don't take my husband. I love my husband, but no, you're staying at home. This is me time. I'm going to go learn and really absorb what they're teaching me.
Yeah. And I love learning. So I'm like, I love conferences. I miss conferences.
Want to be part of conferences.
Yeah. Is there anything on your heart that you want our listeners to know or understand or search after?
Just don't think that all counseling is the same. And, you know, there are some of us out here that are doing this for free. We don't charge anything. We just want to be there for you. Give us a chance. Let us talk to you. Look us up. You know, we want to help. This is what we're called to do. And just let us help you sit well at the well. I love that expression from my teacher, and I've used it so many times. I want to help you sit well at the well. I want to help you learn to be. There's this book that I love, and it's called it's Being a Masterpiece. God is creating you. God has made you a masterpiece. But like all art, you make a little mistake, you got to fix it, but this don't look good. God's doing that with you. He's making little bitty changes because He wants you to be what's called a you-ier you. You're great. You're wonderful. And I love you. But let me show you how you can be a you-ier you. Let me show you a little bit more up to you. Because there's so much inside of people and they don't know how to get it out. And that's what I'm here for, is to give you the tools to get that out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my drawing professors would often, they would like to say that no art piece is ever fully done. I like to argue, but it might be true. It's true with us. We're never done.
Yeah, it's definitely true with people. But I like the idea that actual created art pieces can be somewhat done.
Well, we're not done until we meet our maker. And that's the thing, is we are a masterpiece. And I know you know art very well, and you know when you make a mistake, you do not throw that art in the garbage. You sit there and you say, hello, you're worth something. I've been working on you. Hello, let me work a little bit more and fix this. And that's what God does. He fixes it. He puts a little bit more blue here and a little bit more gray there. He's working on you. Let him work on you and let people help you. It says in Proverbs, you've got great plans, but to succeed, seek counseling of others. So seek counseling. Let us help you.
Yeah, it's like the ugly duckling stage of a piece. You really you have to keep working on it, even though you want to burn it.
No, you're not going to burn it. We're going to keep going.
Yeah.
We're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Put a little taste.
There's such a need, especially with long-term missionaries.
Yeah.
Because the last time we were in Romania, the whole trip, it ended up just being us counseling long-term missionaries.
I totally wish that I would have had the 5 stages of self-care
Yeah.
on a pamphlet to give to the long-term missionary.
Yeah, we felt very like, okay, we're listening to your issues, and maybe this will help if you looked at it this way, maybe. But we definitely both were like, okay, we need to know more stuff than we do about counseling, or have Christina, like, I didn't even think about you, but have Christina on call and be like, Christina, help!
Come on, call me. I'm ready anytime. Yeah. I'll take a break. Come talk.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah. That's like a real thing with the long-term missionaries. Like, burnout is such a big thing. Like, so as a last question, I guess, self-care is definitely a way to deal with burnout. Is there any other helpful things that you have found to deal with burnout?
You need to know the signs. If you do not know the signs of burnout, people just say, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. That can be burnout, but that's not really what burnout is. When you have burnout, you have completely lost empathy. You don't really care anymore what's going on with anybody else. Oh, she's broke her leg. Oh, it's okay. She'll find somebody else to help her. That's when you've lost that burning passion of empathy. I want to help somebody. I want to be God's light and feet on this earth. And you've lost that. And the only way to stop burnout is by doing self-care. I preach self-care and journaling are my 2 biggest tools because it helps. You've got to own your feelings. You've got to own up that if your cup is empty, you cannot fill somebody else's. I mean, it's just, some people like to not only empty their cup, they like to crash it and put it in several pieces and then be like, okay, wait, I might need help. Then I gotta come in and help you figure out how you're gonna glue that cup and put water in it at the same time. You don't need to wait till then. You need to you need to know, okay, why am I feeling this way, and own up to it and push forward to help yourself so you can help others.
Right. So what would you say are the signs of burnout?
One of the major things is empathy. You do not have empathy for others. Some people will start to develop a lack of self-care, like they will not take showers. They will just wear whatever they find balled up on the floor. Their house is a wreck. They don't want to clean up. They don't like they just don't care anymore. They've lost that. I just don't care. I'm not even going to brush my hair today. I don't care. They can look at me like a ragamuffin. I don't care. But no, when you get up in the morning, you have to say, God gave me this day. I want to serve others. Now, how am I going to do that? Maybe I don't feel like ironing my hair out, but I'm going to put it up nicely. You've got to, if you've lost that, then you're burned out.
Well, yeah. Which is really bad if you're a long-term missionary and you've lost empathy. That's like the worst combination ever. Mm-hmm.
Because you're there for a purpose. You've been called by God to do a job and to serve people. And if you don't care about those people, how are you going to help them? How is God going to enter you and go, hey, I think that person over there needs this? Because he will come to you and tell you who needs what. But if you don't care about the person in front of you, how are you going to care about who God calls you to? How are you going to listen? How are you going to put your listening ears on if you've got them close to God?
Oh, man.
Yeah. You're not.
Yeah.
Burnout long-term missionaries are, I think that's kind of why long-term or short-term missions should be a thing.
It's to help
people, like help long-term missionaries to not feel so burnt out. Like that's definitely how it felt our last time. And reading that, Helping Without Hurting in Short-Term Missions, was one of them, was yours to encourage the long-term missionaries because they're doing the real work. Like, yeah, short-term missions is doing some of it, but the long-term missions are sustaining it.
Yeah, we need both so that the long-term missionaries don't get burned out and they can be helped by the short-term missionaries.
And physically be able to do stuff. Yeah.
Short-term missions is great for small projects.
Mm-hmm.
So the long-term missionaries can listen to the community on what they need to get done. And then short-term missions can come with like gusto and and get it done. And when it works together and people aren't burned out, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Short-term mission, I think it's a great thing because you need to come in there and say, okay, what can I do to help you so you can take a break and do some you time.
Yes.
Develop develop your self-wellness. If you're not well, you're not going to help anybody. So you've got to, short-term missions should come in and say, a lot of times we want to do short-term missions. We're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to hand out these Bibles. I'm going to go out and I'm going to hold hands with this person and pray over. Okay, that's wonderful. But let's think about the people that are on this mission long-term and say, hey, Miss Susie, you've been in here for 3 years now? What can I do to be able to allow you to have some free time for you?
Yes. That's how it felt last time. Was we ended up completely cleaning out the big 3-story mission house in Craiova we worked on that how long? Like a week?
Definitely a week. We did all the laundry, washed walls, cleaned bathrooms, everything top to bottom.
It was deep cleaning, and we prayed over it the whole time. And that was so that the long-term missionaries that were there, that was supposed to come in and clean, that they could take a break and work on whatever they needed to for themselves instead of thinking about us.
Houses.
Yeah, they were moving houses so that they could have time to do that because they were moving.
Closing thoughts, I think we all need more therapy, especially people in long-term missions.
Yes. Yes,
and you can always check me out. I'm on Facebook. I'm anywhere. You can call me. I want to help. Really.
And I'm so thankful that I know you. I know that we will be talking. So thankful for you, Christina. Thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. And any questions, anytime, just hit me up. I don't mind anytime.
Awesome. Yes. We will probably have you back on the show. I don't know when, but we definitely want you back.
We love your insight.
Okay.
We do.
I'd love to come back. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you. God bless.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
This was a really fun interview to do. Talking to Christina Strong about counseling and especially about the 5 different branches of self-care was super insightful for me. And I think that it'll be really, really great to anyone who's either in long-term missions or just in ministry at all. I also think it'd be good for just everyday people because it was great for me. And I live here in the U.S. at this current moment in time. And I'm an everyday person.
For now.
We hope that you enjoyed this podcast, and we'll tune in for the next time we have a guest on. We're just talking about things by ourselves.
The Nation's Call is a 501c3 missions organization supported by wonderful people like you. If you would like to partner with us, you can do so by going to Patreon at patreon.com/thenationscall and by following us on Instagram and Facebook, where you can also ask us questions we might address here. Thanks for listening to the Nation's Call podcast.